Somebody grab that black girl. She stole my wallet. The billionaire's voice echoed across Michigan Avenue. Nobody moved. Nobody cared. And the girl? She wasn't sprinting away. She was running slowly, glancing back, making sure he followed. William Harrison jumped out of his Maybach and chased her himself, through crumbling streets, past houses marked with red X's, into a Detroit his money had destroyed. Her torn hoodie flapped behind her. Her sneakers were worn through, homeless for 2 weeks. But he didn't know that yet. She wasn't fleeing. She was leading. Every time he got close, she slipped away, pulling him deeper into the ruins. The black homeless girl who stole his wallet had a plan. A place she needed him to see. A place that would break his heart. William's Italian loafers slapped against cracked pavement as he ran. This was insane. He was the CEO of a $2 billion company. He had a groundbreaking ceremony in 45 minutes. The mayor was waiting. The press was waiting. 300 VIPs were sipping champagne at a construction site, waiting to watch him turn a golden shovel. And here he was, chasing a 10-year-old girl through the worst part of Detroit. His phone buzzed incessantly in his pocket. His assistant. The mayor's office. Board members demanding to know why the CEO wasn't at his own ceremony. He ignored them all. Because something about this girl made him keep running. The way she moved. Not panicked. Not desperate. Calculated. Every turn seemed planned. Every glance back felt like an invitation rather than a check for pursuit. "Follow me," her eyes said. "I dare you." She ducked down an alley littered with broken glass and rotting garbage. William followed, his $3,000 suit jacket catching on a rusted fire escape. The gleaming towers of downtown had vanished behind him. Now he ran through a different Detroit, the one that didn't appear in development brochures or investor presentations, the Detroit that existed in the margins, in the shadows, in the spaces between progress and poverty. Boarded windows everywhere, sagging porches that looked like they might collapse at any moment, houses marked with red X's, the brand of condemnation, the death sentence that preceded the wrecking ball. Graffiti screamed from every wall. Harrison equals thieves. 52 families displaced. Where do we go now? Your profit equals our pain. His name, his company, his project. William's lungs burned, but he pushed harder. The girl was 30 feet ahead now, weaving through debris with the ease of someone who had walked these streets 1,000 times. "Wait!" he shouted. "I just want to talk!" She didn't stop, but she didn't speed up either. Just kept that same deliberate pace, fast enough to stay ahead, slow enough to ensure he followed. They passed a demolition site where a house lay half destroyed, its guts spilled across the yard like a body after surgery. Furniture, photo albums, a child's bicycle, crushed beneath a fallen beam, a pink backpack, half buried in rubble. An elderly woman sat on the curb nearby, clutching a cardboard box to her chest. Inside the box, William glimpsed photographs, yellowed with age, curling at the corners. A lifetime of memories reduced to a single container. She looked up as William ran past and her eyes went wide. "That's him," she said to no one. "That's the man whose name is on the paper. That's the one who took everything." William didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The girl was getting away. But the woman's words burrowed into his skull like a splinter. The man whose name is on the paper. What paper? What had his name done here? The girl turned another corner, disappearing around a crumbling brick wall. William followed, and nearly collided with a chain-link fence that stretched across the alley. Dead end. He spun around, searching frantically. There, a hole in the fence, edges worn smooth from repeated use. Someone had been coming through here regularly. He squeezed through, tearing his jacket on the wire, feeling the fabric give way like skin. On the other side, an overpass. Interstate 94 roared overhead. a river of traffic carrying people to jobs and homes and lives that had nothing to do with the world beneath the concrete shadow. And in that shadow, a community. 3 cars parked in a row, their windows covered with blankets and cardboard for privacy. A makeshift clothesline strung between 2 shopping carts, laundry flapping in the exhaust-tinged breeze. A man sitting in a lawn chair, reading a water-damaged paperback like this was the most normal thing in the world. Because for him, it was. This wasn't a campground. This wasn't temporary. This was where people lived. The girl had finally stopped. She stood next to a faded Honda Civic, paint peeling, bumper held together with duct tape, back seat converted into a makeshift bed visible through the dirty windows. She wasn't running anymore. She was waiting. William approached slowly, gasping for breath, hands on his knees. His shirt was soaked with sweat. His shoes were ruined. His designer suit was torn and covered in dust. He looked nothing like the polished CEO who had stepped out of a Maybach 15 minutes ago. "Why?" he panted. "Why did you—" The car door opened, and a woman stepped out who looked at William Harrison like he was the devil himself. She was young, early 30s, but exhaustion had carved years into her face. Dark circles shadowed bloodshot eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, strands escaping in every direction. Nurses' scrubs, wrinkled and stained, clearly slept in for days. But her eyes were fire. "Zuri!" Her voice cut through the noise of traffic overhead. "What did you do?" "I brought him, Mama." The girl, Zuri, held up William's wallet. "I brought the man whose name stole our house." The woman's face cycled through emotions like a slot machine. Confusion, recognition, disbelief, and finally a rage so pure it seemed to radiate heat. "You're William Harrison," she said. Not a question. Yes. Your name is on the paper." She stepped forward, and William instinctively stepped back. "Your signature threw my family out of our home. Your company put my children in this car." From inside the Honda, a small face appeared in the window. A boy, maybe 4 years old, thumb in his mouth, wide eyes watching everything. He coughed, a wet, rattling sound that spoke of cold nights and inadequate shelter. "That's Isaiah," Zuri said quietly. "He's been sick since we lost the house. 2 weeks. Mama takes him to the clinic, but sleeping in a car isn't good for him." William stared at the vehicle, the blankets piled in the back seat, the children's drawings taped to the inside of the windows, crayon houses and smiling stick figures, desperate attempts to make this metal box feel like home. A stuffed rabbit with one ear missing, propped against the window like a guardian. His name had done this, his company, his project. "I don't understand," he said. "I never signed any eviction." "Liar." The woman, Nadine, spat the word like poison. "I've heard enough lies from men in suits. Your people took everything, and now you stand there pretending you don't even know." "I'm not pretending. I genuinely don't." "Then explain this." She pulled a crumpled document from her bag and thrust it at him. William took it with hands he couldn't keep steady. Notice of eviction and demolition. Property, 1848 Maple Street. Owner, Nadine Williams. Status, non-compliant with Development Zone Ordinance, 14C. Authorized by William Harrison, CEO. His eyes dropped to the signature at the bottom. William Harrison. Except it wasn't. He had signed his name hundreds of thousands of times over 30 years. He knew his signature like he knew his own heartbeat. Like he knew the sound of his daughter's laugh before she died. The sweep of the W. The angle of the H. The tail of the N in Harrison that always curved down. A habit from law school that he'd never broken. This signature's N curved up. I didn't sign this, he said. Nadine laughed, a harsh, broken sound. Of course you didn't. The billionaire never knows. The billionaire never signs. The billionaire just collects the money while the rest of us lose everything. No. Look. William pointed at the signature. The end of my name. The N. It curves the wrong way. Someone forged this. Forged? Nadine's voice dripped contempt. You expect me to believe? I don't expect anything. I'm telling you what I see. William looked up, met her eyes. Someone in my company signed this using my name. Someone is using my signature to evict families. Who gave you this notice? He asked. Who delivered it? Your man. Nadine's jaw tightened. Derek Palmer, Community Relations Director. He stood on my mama's porch and counted down the minutes until he could throw us out. Looked at my children like they were trash. Threw a $100 bill at my feet like I was a beggar. Derek Palmer. William knew that name. Middle management, ambitious. Had been pushing for a VP promotion for months, always volunteering for the difficult projects. He said something I'll never forget, Nadine continued. When I tried to show him our deed, the deed my mother paid off in 1987, he told me to get my black hands off his suit. William felt sick. He grew up 3 blocks from our house, Nadine said. Went to school with my brother. Now he acts like he's never seen a black family in his life. Inside the car, Isaiah coughed again. A terrible rattling sound. Mama? His small voice was muffled by the glass. When are we going home? Nadine's composure cracked, just for a moment. Soon, baby, soon. You said that yesterday. I know. William watched the exchange. Mother and son, homeless and sick, living in a car under an overpass while his name sat on a billboard 3 miles away. Harrison Heights, luxury living coming 2024. Luxury living, built on the graves of homes like theirs. I need to see the house, William said. Nadine blinked. What? The house, 1848 Maple Street. I need to see it. Why? So you can admire your handiwork before the bulldozers finish it off tomorrow morning? No. William's voice was steady despite the chaos inside him. So I can understand what's really happening. You're right. This is my company, my name, my responsibility. And if someone is using that name to destroy families, I need to see exactly what they've done. Zuri stepped forward. The house is scheduled for demolition at 6 a.m. They've already marked it with the red X. Then we have 12 hours. Nadine stared at him for a long moment. The fire in her eyes hadn't dimmed, but something else flickered there now, something that might have been hope, quickly suppressed under layers of disappointment and distrust. Isaiah stays here, she finally said. Mrs. Patterson can watch him. She nodded toward another car parked down the row. And I'm coming with you. Mama, Zuri started. No arguments. Nadine's voice was steel. If this man is lying, if this is just another rich man trick, I want to see his face when the truth comes out. She ducked into the Honda, murmuring softly to Isaiah. William heard fragments. Be good for Mrs. Patterson. Mama will be back soon, I promise. The desperate assurances of a mother who had no idea if she could keep them. When Nadine emerged, her expression had hardened again. Armor rebuilt. Walls restored. Mrs. Patterson, she called. An elderly woman emerged from a nearby car, the same woman William had seen clutching photographs at the demolition site. She moved slowly, joints stiff from sleeping in a vehicle, but her eyes were sharp. That the man? Mrs. Patterson asked, looking at William. That's the man whose name is on everything, Nadine replied. Mrs. Patterson studied him the way a scientist might study an unusual specimen. Don't look like much. They never do, Nadine said. Watch Isaiah for me? Of course, baby. You be careful. Nadine helped Isaiah out of the car. He clutched his one-eared rabbit and looked up at William with huge, confused eyes. Are you the bad man? Isaiah asked. The question hit William like a physical blow. I don't know, he answered honestly. I hope not. Isaiah considered this, then nodded solemnly and allowed Mrs. Patterson to lead him away. Zuri tugged at William's torn sleeve. Follow me, she said. They walked for 15 minutes through streets that felt like a war zone. Every third house was boarded up. Every other lot was empty, just dirt and debris where homes had stood for generations. Demolition equipment sat idle on corners, waiting for dawn to resume its work. The graffiti followed them like a chorus of accusation. This was our home. Harrison stole everything. 52 families. Where do we go? 52 families. William filed that number away. If someone had been forging his signature, this went far deeper than one house. Finally, Zuri stopped. There, she said. The house stood at the end of a dead-end street, a small two-story white paint peeling, porch sagging. Plywood covered every window. A massive red X was slashed across the front wall like a wound. But William could see what it had been. Flower boxes, now empty. Wooden fence, now collapsed. Tire swing, now hanging by a single frayed rope. This house had been loved. Grandma bought this place in 1975, Zuri said softly. Worked at Ford for 30 years to pay it off. Mama grew up here. I was born in the upstairs bedroom. William stared at the red X. There's something inside I need you to see, Zuri said. The real reason I brought you here. Zuri slipped through a gap in the fence, worn smooth from repeated use, and William followed, tearing his coat once more on the rusted wire. The backyard was overgrown, weeds reaching waist-high, but a narrow path had been beaten through them. Someone had been coming here regularly, visiting, holding on. The back door was unlocked. Zuri pushed it open, and the hinges screamed, a sound like something dying, like the house itself was crying out. Inside, dust motes swirled in the afternoon light that filtered through cracks in the plywood. The air was thick and still, heavy with the smell of abandonment, mildew and old wood, and memories left to rot. The furniture was still there. A couch with a hand-knitted afghan draped over the back, colors faded but still visible, purple and gold, someone's favorite colors. A dining table with 4 chairs, one of them a child's booster seat. A television with a cracked screen, remote still on the armrest as if someone had just set it down. Family photos hung on the walls, their glass clouded with dust, but the images still visible. Graduations, weddings, birthday parties, Christmas mornings with presents piled under a tree. A grandmother holding a newborn baby. Zuri, William realized. They gave us 30 minutes, Zuri said, her voice echoing in the empty rooms. The men with the papers. They said we had 30 minutes to leave or they'd arrest Mama for trespassing in her own home. She ran a finger along the dining table, leaving a trail in the dust. We couldn't take everything. We couldn't take anything, really. Just clothes. Just what we could carry. Mama was crying so hard she could barely see. Isaiah kept asking when we were coming back. She paused at the booster seat. He still asks, every night. Nadine had entered behind them. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching William with eyes that dared him to look away. He didn't. This way, Zuri said. She led him to the kitchen. The refrigerator stood silent and dead, but something was still attached to its door, held by magnets shaped like fruit. Apples and oranges and bananas, the kind you buy at a dollar store and keep for decades because they remind you of simpler times. A drawing, crayon on paper, faded but still vibrant. A house with a red door and white walls. A tree with green leaves and small red apples. 4 figures standing in front, a woman with curly hair, 2 children holding hands, and a fourth figure floating on a cloud with angel wings and a golden halo. "Our home forever" was written across the top in a child's careful letters. "I drew that last year," Zuri said. "The angel is Grandma. She died 3 months before they took the house. Heart attack." Mama found her sitting in her favorite chair looking out the window at the apple tree. William stared at the drawing. The simple lines, the hopeful colors, the word forever that had turned out to be a lie. "She's watching us," Zuri continued. "That's what Mama says. Grandma's watching from heaven to make sure we're okay." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I wonder what she thinks about us living in the car, about what happened to her house." "There's something else," she said after a moment. "The real reason I brought you here." She led him down a narrow hallway, past a bathroom with a dripping faucet. The sound impossibly loud in the silence, like a heartbeat counting down, to a bedroom door. The room was small, a child's room. Twin bed with a faded comforter covered in stars and moons. Dresser with stickers on the drawers, unicorns and rainbows and Disney princesses. Drawings covering every inch of wall space, dozens of them, all in the same careful hand. But Zuri walked past all of it, to the doorframe. And William's heart stopped. There, carved into the wood, were marks. 6 of them, each one labeled in careful handwriting with a date and a measurement. Zuri, age 2, 2-9. Zuri, age 4, 3-2. Zuri, age 6, 3-8. Zuri, age 7, 3-11. Zuri, age 9, 4-3. Zuri, age 10, 4-5. The last mark was dated 1 month ago, the day before the eviction. "Grandma made the first one," Zuri said softly. She walked to the doorframe and stood beside it, and the top of her head aligned exactly with that final mark. "The day I turned 2. She said she'd keep doing it until I was taller than her. She was 5'2". She traced the lowest mark with her finger, the mark made when she was barely more than a baby, when the world was safe and home was forever. She didn't make it. She died." Zuri's voice cracked, just barely, just enough to reveal the grief beneath the determination. "And then we had to leave, and she never got to see me grow up." William stared at the marks. 6 lines carved into wood with a kitchen knife or maybe a screwdriver. A grandmother's love measured in inches. A child's growth documented with more care than most corporations gave their financial records. He thought of another door frame, another set of marks. Lily, age 1, 2-2. Lily, age 3, 2-11. Lily, age 5, 3-5. Lily, age 7, 3-10. Lily, age 9, 4-1. A progression that ended too soon. In a hospital room with machines beeping their final notes, with a father holding his daughter's hand as it grew cold, with a wife who never recovered, who left him 2 years later because looking at him reminded her too much of what they'd lost. "My daughter had one of these," William whispered. The words came out broken, jagged. Zuri looked at him. "Had?" "She died. 15 years ago. She was 10 years old." He paused. "Just like you." Something shifted in Zuri's expression. The sharpness softened. The anger dimmed. For a moment, she wasn't a homeless girl confronting the man who destroyed her family. She was just a child, looking at another broken person. "I'm sorry," she said. And she meant it. William reached out and touched the lowest mark, Zuri, age 2, and felt the rough groove beneath his fingertips. Someone had made this with love, with patience, with the absolute belief that this house would stand forever, that this family would always be here to measure against this doorframe. "If they tear down this house tomorrow," Zuri said quietly, "where do the marks go?" The question hit William like a physical blow. Where do the marks go? When the bulldozers came at dawn and the walls fell and the dust settled, what happened to this record of a life? Did it become rubble, hauled away in dump trucks to some anonymous landfill? Did it vanish completely, as if the child who grew here and the grandmother who measured her and the family who loved within these walls had never existed at all? I don't know, William admitted. His voice was barely audible. That's what I wanted you to see. Zuri's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. Not the house, not the furniture, not even the pictures. This. The marks, the history, the things that can't be replaced by money or new construction or fair compensation. Nadine stepped forward. She had been watching from the doorway, and now she moved to stand beside her daughter. My mother made the first mark when Zuri was 2 years old, she said. She said this doorframe was more valuable than the whole house, because the house was just wood and nails. Anyone can build a house. She placed her palm against the frame, covering the lowest marks. But this was our story. William looked at the eviction notice still clutched in his hand, at the signature that wasn't his, at the name that had been turned into a weapon against this family. Someone forged this, he said again. Someone inside my company used my name to destroy your home. Does it matter? Nadine's voice was hollow. Your name, your company, your responsibility. That's what you said. Yes, and I meant it. William met her eyes. Which is why I'm going to stop it. Tonight. He pulled out his phone. Diana, he said when she answered, I need you to pull every eviction document with my signature from the past 2 years, every single one, and cross-reference them with Derek Palmer's activity logs. Will? Where are you? The groundbreaking? Forget the groundbreaking. Someone's been forging my signature. I'm standing in one of the houses they destroyed. He looked at the door frame, at the marks. It's scheduled for demolition at 6 a.m. We have less than 12 hours. Diana's email arrived at 9:49 p.m. William sat on the sagging porch of 1848 Maple Street, phone in hand, the glow of the screen illuminating his face in the darkness. Nadine sat on the steps nearby, wrapped in a blanket she'd brought from the car. Zuri had fallen asleep inside, curled up on the couch where she used to watch cartoons with her grandmother. The files loaded slowly on William's phone, but when they did, the truth assembled itself with devastating clarity. 52 eviction documents, all bearing the signature William Harrison, all from the past 18 months, all forged. The signature analysis software Diana had run was damning. Every document showed the same telltale errors, the same narrow W, the same wrong angle on the H, the same upward curl on the final N. Consistent. Repeated. The work of someone who had studied William's signature carefully, but hadn't quite mastered its nuances. But the signatures weren't the worst of it. The emails were worse. Internal correspondence from Derek Palmer to the legal department spanning 16 months. Mr. Harrison has verbally approved the Oak Street relocations. I'll handle the documentation. Phone confirmation received from Mr. Harrison's office regarding Maple Street properties. Paperwork to follow. Per my conversation with Mr. Harrison, we are proceeding with the Jefferson Avenue acquisitions. William checked his phone logs against each date. Nothing. No calls to Derek Palmer. No calls to anyone in the Detroit office. On several of those dates, William had been in Singapore, London, Dubai, board meetings and investor presentations on the other side of the world while Derek Palmer was forging his signature back home. And then, the final piece. The motive. A compensation structure document buried in the HR files. Community Relations Bonus Program. Director, Derek Palmer. Bonus per successful relocation, $500, 52 families, $26,000. But money wasn't Derek's only motivation. A memo from HR dated 3 months ago. Derek Palmer is being considered for promotion to VP of Development. His exceptional management of the Harrison Heights Community Relations Program demonstrates leadership capabilities and results-driven performance. He had done it for money, for status, for a corner office and a title and the chance to become the kind of man who never had to remember where he came from. And 52 families had paid the price. Well? Nadine's voice cut through the darkness. William turned to her. In the dim light, he could see the tension in her shoulders, the fear she was trying to hide. 52 families, he said. All forged signatures. All fake approvals. One man behind everything. Derek Palmer. Derek Palmer. William's jaw tightened. He earned $26,000 in bonuses. $500 per family. That's what your home was worth to him. $500. Nadine was quiet for a long moment. He grew up here, she finally said. 3 blocks away. His mother still lives on Baker Street. We used to be friends, his family and mine. We went to the same church. Her voice hardened. And he did this to us. To all of us. For $500 apiece. The worst betrayals come from people who know exactly what they're destroying. William dialed Diana. I've seen everything, he said. I need an emergency injunction to halt all demolitions in the Harrison Heights project. Filed tonight. Effective before 6 a.m. Tonight? Will, the courts are closed. Then find a judge at home, wake one up, drive to their house if you have to. He looked at the house, the boarded windows, the red X, the doorframe inside with its precious marks. There's a family here waiting to find out if they'll have a home tomorrow. I won't let them down. Silence on the line. Then, I'll make it happen. And Diana? When this is over, I want Derek Palmer arrested. Fraud, forgery, theft, whatever charges stick. With this evidence, that won't be difficult. I don't want difficult. I want thorough. I want every family he destroyed to see justice. He ended the call. Nadine was watching him. The fire in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by something more complex, hope and doubt and the terrible vulnerability of wanting to believe. You really didn't know, she said. Not a question this time. I really didn't know. But I know now. He stood up, looked at the house. And I'm not going to let that door frame become rubble. 5:43 a.m. The bulldozer appeared at the end of Maple Street, yellow paint catching the gray pre-dawn light, engine rumbling like distant thunder, treads grinding against asphalt as it crawled forward, crushing debris beneath its weight. Behind it, a flatbed truck carried the rest of the demolition equipment. Wrecking balls, hydraulic arms, the machinery of erasure. Zuri stood in front of her grandmother's house, feet planted, small fists clenched at her sides. She had been awake for an hour, watching the street, waiting for the monsters to arrive. They're coming, she said. Nadine stood beside her, holding Isaiah on her hip. Mrs. Patterson had brought him back an hour ago, and the little boy was still half asleep, confused by the cold and the noise and the tension radiating from every adult around him. Mama? His voice was small, scared. They gonna break Grandma's house? Not if we can stop them, baby. William paced at the curb, phone pressed to his ear. Diana, tell me you have it. The judge signed 15 minutes ago. I'm on my way now. How far? 8 minutes, maybe 10 with traffic. William watched the bulldozer, 6 minutes away, maybe 7. The gap between salvation and destruction measured in heartbeats. You need to drive faster. 5:51 a.m. The foreman jumped down from the bulldozer cab, clipboard in hand, hard hat gleaming in the first light of dawn. Everyone needs to clear the area, he announced, approaching the small group with the practiced authority of someone who had delivered this speech 100 times. This property is scheduled for demolition under Development Order 852. For your safety, I need everyone to step back beyond the yellow tape. William stepped forward. That order was signed by a forger. The foreman squinted, annoyed. Sir, I don't know who you are, but I have legal documentation. I'm William Harrison, CEO of Harrison Development Corporation. William let that sink in, watching the recognition dawn in the foreman's eyes. The signature on that order claims to be mine. It's not. Someone forged it. Whoa! The foreman's expression shifted. Confusion, uncertainty, a flicker of fear. He'd seen William on television, on billboards, on the side of buildings bearing his name. Mr. Harrison, I'm just doing my job. I have orders from management, orders based on fraudulent documents. I can't just stop a scheduled demolition because you can when a court tells you to. The sound of tires squealing cut through the morning air. A black sedan screamed around the corner, fishtailing slightly before straightening out. It screeched to a halt at the end of the street, and Diana Ross emerged at a dead run. Heels clicking against pavement, manila folder clutched to her chest like a lifeline. "Emergency injunction!" she shouted, voice carrying across the silent street. "Wayne County Circuit Court! All demolition activities in the Harrison Heights project are suspended immediately pending fraud investigation." She reached the foreman and thrust the document into his hands. He read it. Read it again. His face went pale. "Shut it down!" he called to his crew, voice cracking. "Kill the engine! We're done here!" The bulldozer's engine coughed and died. In the sudden silence, Zuri exhaled, a sound that seemed to carry weeks of fear, weeks of hope, weeks of desperate prayer released in a single breath. "It's still standing," she whispered, staring at the house. "Mama, it's still standing." Nadine pulled her daughter close. Isaiah squirmed between them, confused but sensing that something important had happened. "Is Grandma's house okay?" he asked. "Yeah, baby." Nadine's voice cracked. "Grandma's house is okay." Tot, 9:00 a.m. Harrison Development Corp. headquarters. Derek Palmer sat in his corner office on the 14th floor. Coffee steaming on his desk. Spreadsheet open on his monitor. Tie perfectly knotted. The picture of professional success. He didn't hear the door open. "Derek." Palmer looked up, smile automatic. "Mr. Harrison? I didn't know you were in Detroit today. The groundbreaking yesterday. Sit down." The smile flickered and died. Palmer sat. William placed a folder on the desk. Inside, 52 eviction documents with forged signatures. Email trails proving false authorizations. Phone logs showing no calls on dates Palmer had claimed verbal approval. Bonus payments totaling $26,000. "The Williams family," William said quietly. 1848 Maple Street. "Tell me about them." "Williams?" Palmer's voice was steady, but his hand had started to tremble. "I handle hundreds of relocations." 52. William's voice dropped to ice. 52 families you evicted with my forged signature. 52 lies you told. 52 homes you destroyed. He leaned forward. For $500 each. The color drained from Palmer's face. Then, remarkably, it hardened. "You don't understand. I was helping the project. You were helping yourself." "I did what needed to be done." Palmer stood abruptly. "You don't know what it's like coming from nothing, fighting for every inch while people like you just have things. I was born 6 blocks from that house." Palmer stopped. "Same streets, same struggle, same nothing." William's voice went quiet. "I escaped without destroying anyone else. That's the difference between us." The door opened. 2 security guards, 2 police officers. "Derek Palmer, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and theft." As they cuffed him, Palmer looked at William one last time. "I was just willing to do what you wouldn't." "No," William replied. "You were willing to become what I never wanted to be." They led him away in handcuffs. 3 days later, the community center on Jefferson Avenue was standing room only. 200 people packed the aging hall, filling every folding chair and lining the walls 3 deep. Families who had been evicted, families fighting eviction, neighbors who had watched their community hollowed out one house at a time by men with clipboards and forged signatures and $500 bonuses. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The PA system squealed with feedback. Water stains spread across the ceiling tiles. But none of that mattered, because tonight, for the first time in years, there was hope in this room. William Harrison stood at the front. No podium, no teleprompter, no PR team to polish his words. Just a man in slacks and a button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, facing the community his company had nearly destroyed. "I'm not here to apologize," he said. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Apologies don't rebuild houses. They don't give back the nights you spent in cars or shelters or on the couches of relatives who didn't have room for you. They don't erase the humiliation of being thrown out of your own home by someone who looked at you like you were nothing." He paused, letting the words settle. "I'm here to tell you what happens next." He held up a document. "First, all evictions under the Harrison Heights project are frozen, immediately. Every one of the 52 affected families will have their cases reviewed by an independent housing advocate, not anyone from my company, someone who works for you." Cautious nods from the crowd. Decades of broken promises had taught them not to celebrate too soon. Second, every family that was illegally evicted will have their property returned. Full ownership, clear title, no liens, no conditions, no strings attached. He let that sink in. "What was stolen from you will be given back." Mrs. Patterson, the elderly woman who had clutched her box of photographs on that first day, pressed her hand to her mouth. Tears streamed down her weathered cheeks. Her daughter wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Third, we're establishing a community land trust. The residents of this neighborhood will own shares in any future development, not as tenants, not as charity cases, as owners. When this neighborhood grows, you grow with it." A young man near the back, James, who had watched his grandmother die in a shelter after losing her home, called out, "How do we know this isn't just talk? How do we know you won't disappear the moment the cameras leave and the lawyers get paid?" William nodded. "That's the right question. The only question that matters." He pointed to a group standing along the side wall. "Which is why I'm also announcing a community advisory board. 7 seats elected by you, not appointed by me. And here's the part that makes this different. Full veto power over any development decision in this district." Silence. Complete, stunned silence. "Veto power?" Mrs. Patterson's voice quavered. "As in, we can say no? As in, if you say no, it's no. Period. Even if I disagree. Even if it costs me money. Even if my investors throw fits and my board threatens to remove me." William spread his hands. "This is your neighborhood. It's always been your neighborhood. I'm just a guest who overstayed his welcome." The back doors swung open. A ripple of recognition passed through the crowd. Gasps, whispered names. Someone started crying. Mr. Johnson, the 80-year-old man who had lived on Maple Street for 50 years before being evicted, who had been found 3 weeks later wandering in a homeless shelter downtown, confused and alone, unable to remember his own address because the address no longer existed in his mind, just the ache of absence where home used to be. He shuffled down the center aisle, supported by a social worker on one side and a cane on the other. His clothes were clean but hung loose on his frame. He'd lost weight in the shelter, but his eyes were clear. "Johnson!" Mrs. Patterson rushed to embrace him, nearly knocking him over in her relief. We didn't know." "I'm all right now, Patty." His voice was thin but steady. "I'm all right." William stepped forward. "Mr. Johnson's house will be the first one rebuilt, on the same lot where his family has lived for 50 years. He'll be home before the first snow falls. The old man looked at William, really looked at him, and something passed between them. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement. "Never thought I'd see the day," Mr. Johnson said quietly. William turned to the front row, where Nadine sat with Zuri and Isaiah. "The Williams family," he said. The room went silent. William reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He crossed the room and placed it in Nadine's hands. "The deed to 1848 Maple Street," he said. "Clear title. No mortgage, no liens, no encumbrances. The house is yours. It was always meant to be yours. No one will ever take it from you again." Nadine's hands shook as she opened the envelope. She stared at the document, the official seal, the legal signatures, her own name printed in bold letters as sole owner. Isaiah tugged at her sleeve. "Mama, what is it?" Zuri leaned close to her brother before Nadine could answer. "We're going home," she whispered. "We're going home, Isaiah. We don't have to sleep in the car anymore." Nadine made a sound, half laugh, half sob, and pulled both children against her chest. "No, baby," she managed through her tears. "No more car. We're going home." Later in the hallway, William found Diana. "I should have seen it," he said. "Palmer was operating right under my nose for 2 years. You can't catch everything, Will." "No. But I can build systems that do." He turned to face her. "I want an ethics hotline. Anonymous. Reports come directly to my desk, not through any manager. No one buries complaints ever again." Diana nodded, already typing notes into her phone. "Done. What else?" "The Community Land Trust model. I want it expanded to every Harrison project, every city. No more developments that displace families without giving them a stake in what comes next." "That's going to cost you." William thought of the doorframe, the marks, the question that had changed everything. "Some things are worth more than money." 2 weeks later. The house at 1848 Maple Street stood transformed in the October sunlight. The red X was gone, sand blasted away, leaving clean white siding in its place. The porch stood solid on new boards that didn't sag or creak. Fresh paint gleamed. The windows sparkled with new glass, the plywood barriers a fading memory. Chrysanthemums bloomed along the front walk, orange and yellow bursts against the autumn air. But when William knocked on the door, he noticed immediately what hadn't changed. The doorframe. Through the screen, he could see it, the marks still there. 6 lines carved into wood, preserved exactly as they had been. Untouched. Sacred. Nadine opened the door, and for the first time since William had met her, she smiled. "You kept it," he said. "You asked us to." She stepped aside to let him in. "You told the contractors it was more important than the whole house. They thought you were crazy." "Maybe I was. Maybe I am." The house smelled like cinnamon and apples, pie baking in the oven. Isaiah sat on the couch watching cartoons, healthy and happy, his rattling cough completely gone. His one-eared rabbit sat beside him like an old friend. Zuri appeared from the kitchen, flour dusting her apron and her cheeks. "Mr. Harrison," she said formally. "Zuri." She held out her hands. A drawing. William took it carefully, handling it like it was made of spun glass. The same house as before. Red door, white walls, apple tree in the yard. The same 4 figures, mother with curly hair, 2 children holding hands, grandmother floating on a cloud with angel wings and a golden halo. But there was a 5th figure now, a man in a dark jacket, standing near the apple tree, slightly apart from the family, but clearly part of the picture, part of the story. "Is that me?" William's voice caught in his throat. Zuri nodded solemnly. "You helped save the house, so now you're part of it." William stared at the drawing. The crayon strokes, the careful coloring, the word forever that finally meant something. When Lily was alive, she used to make drawings like this, would press them into his hands after every business trip, demanding that he hang them in his office. He had dozens of them stored in a box, too painful to display, impossible to throw away. He hadn't looked at them in 15 years. "Thank you," he managed. "I'll treasure this more than you know." "Come see something," Nadine said. They walked down the hallway, past rooms that smelled like fresh paint and home and second chances. The doorframe stood exactly as before. 6 marks, each one a year of growth, each one carved with love. But there was a 7th mark now, fresh. The wood still pale where the blade had cut. Zuri, age 10.5. "Mama made it last week," Zuri said proudly. "First one since we came back." William crouched to examine the new mark. "You grew," he said, "half an inch, even when everything was falling apart." "Mama says I'm going to be tall like my dad." They walked to the front yard where the apple tree stood in the corner, still scraggly, still fighting for survival, but with green leaves on its branches and small fruit beginning to form. "Grandma planted that when I was born," Zuri said. "She said apple trees take 7 years to really produce fruit. It's been 5. William studied the tiny apples. "Think it'll ever grow real ones? Big ones?" "Maybe. In 2 more years. When I'm 12. I'll come back and check." Zuri extended her hand, small, calloused from 2 weeks of hard living, but strong, stronger than he would have believed possible. "Promise?" she asked. William shook it firmly. "Promise." "Debt." As he walked to his car, Nadine called out, "Mr. Harrison?" He turned. "Thank you," she said. "Not for the house, for following. When she stole your wallet, you could have let security handle it. You could have written it off. But you followed." William looked at the fresh paint, the new flowers, the doorframe that had been preserved because someone finally understood what it meant. "Thank Zuri," he said. "She's the one who made me follow. She's the one who knew exactly what I needed to see." He climbed into his car, a company sedan now, not the Maybach, and placed Zuri's drawing carefully on the passenger seat. As he drove away, Zuri waved from the window. He waved back. 1 year later. The sign at the neighborhood entrance no longer read Harrison Heights. Grandma's Garden. A Community Land Trust, Est, 2024. The name had been Zuri's idea. The Community Advisory Board, now chaired by Mrs. Patterson, who had discovered a gift for leadership she never knew she had, voted unanimously to adopt it. Old houses stood beside new ones, restored rather than replaced. Trees that had survived decades still lined the streets, their roots protected by ordinances the board had written themselves. Children played on sidewalks that had been repaired, not torn up. Neighbors sat on porches and waved to each other again. And in the community center, a wall had been transformed. The Wall of Doors. 52 photographs of door frames, each showing height marks from the houses that had been saved. Some had 3 marks. Some had 12. One had marks spanning 4 generations, great-grandmother to great-grandchild, nearly a century of growth recorded in notches and dates and love. Zuri led tours every Saturday morning. "Every mark is someone who got to stay," she would tell the school groups who came from all over the city. "Every line is a family that didn't get erased." In the center of the wall, in a simple black frame, hung her original drawing. The house, the tree, the 5 figures. Our home forever. In his office downtown, William Harrison had made some changes. The awards still hung on one wall. The quarterly reports still filled his inbox. The business of empire continued. But on the opposite wall, the wall he faced every morning, hung 2 pictures. Zuri's drawing. The house with the red door. the apple tree, the 5 figures, one of them, him, and Lily's photograph. Age 6, gap-toothed smile, holding up a crayon drawing of her own. He looked at them every morning before the meetings began, reminders of where to look, reminders of what buildings we're supposed to protect. A black homeless girl stole a billionaire's wallet. She didn't want his money. She wanted him to follow. She led him to a place that broke his heart and changed 52 families forever. Here's my question for you. Is your neighborhood still the same as when you grew up? Or has it changed so much you wouldn't recognize it? Drop a comment with the name of your neighborhood and one memory that makes it home. And if this story made you think about what home really means, hit that like button. Let me know you were here.